Hello everyone, my name is Gabriel. Today, I am going to read to you some Disney stories I got from reading the storybook collection and the movies I have watched. The first story I'm going to read to you is Cars 3. Lightning McQueen's racing season was off to a flying start. The hotshot racer had his sights set on another cup victory. Lightning's first race of the season had seen him fly across the finish line to take the checkered flag ahead of his rivals, Carl Weathers and Bobby Swift. The next race in Arizona saw Lightning tear up the track, just as before. This time, with one lap to go, McQueen and Swift were going head-to-head. But just as the flag came out, a slick black racer made his move. Jackson Storm zoomed over the line to take the victory. "What a pleasure it is to finally beat you," Storm teased Lightning after the race. Storm increased his lead as the season continued, beating McQueen every time. No matter how hard he revved his engine, Lightning just couldn't keep up. The racing world was changing, and the next generation of high-tech racers were faster and stronger. His old friend Carl Weathers retired, and Brick Yardley was replaced by a next-gen. But Lightning wasn't about to give up. He loved racing too much. By the time the last race of the season came out, he had a plan to beat Storm. If Lightning made a steady start, he could save his speed to overtake Storm in the final laps. Lightning zoomed out of the pits with new tires and plenty of fuel to take the lead. Lightning pushed as hard as he could, but Storm quickly caught up. "Enjoy your retirement," Storm laughed as he sped past McQueen. Lightning pushed himself to the max until suddenly one of his tires blew. His friends in the crowd gasped as Lightning lost control and went spinning across the track. He flipped into the air in a cloud of sparks and smoke. Crash! At last, a terrified Lightning skidded to a stop. Months passed as Lightning sat alone in Doc's garage in Radiator Springs. "It's safe to say that Lightning McQueen's racing days are over," the radio crackled. Lightning switched off the radio and watched a film of a race, the one where Doc Hudson, his old crew chief and mentor, had crashed. Lightning hadn't raced since his own big crash, but he decided that he wasn't ready to quit just yet. He had to speak to his Rusty sponsors, Dusty and Rusty. The next day, Lightning traveled to the brand new Rusty's Racing Center to discover that Dusty and Rusty had sold Rusty's and the number 95 to a business car named Sterling. Sterling showed Lightning around the racing center. Lightning was amazed. He'd never seen anything like it before. Sterling showed Lightning the training area. Lightning couldn't believe his eyes. "Is that what I think it is?" Lightning gasped, staring up at a big racing simulator. 3 next-gen racers cheered as a yellow car on the simulator took the checkered flag. It looked just like being on a real track. "Who's the racer?" Lightning asked Sterling. No, she's a trainer. The best in the business," Sterling replied. Cruz Ramirez was going to be Lightning's new trainer. She was a cool and calm car. If anyone could help Lightning make a comeback, it was Cruz. Lightning was bursting to get going on the simulator, but Cruz had other ideas. "We need to save your energy," Cruz explained. "We'll work on your speed after your nap." But when Lightning saw his chance, he sped away from Cruz and drove up the simulator ramp. Sterling arrived to watch his star racer in action. But Lightning lost control and crashed through the simulator screen. Sterling wanted Lightning to give up racing and get rich making TV adverts and promoting racing merchandise instead, but Lightning begged for another chance to race. Sterling agreed to let Lightning go to Florida with Cruz to compete in the Florida 500, the first race of the Piston Cup season, but if Lightning didn't win, it was to be his last race. Lightning was done with treadmills and simulators. He needed to train his own way and get his tires dirty. Lightning and Cruz headed out onto Fireball Beach to start training. Lightning raced to the pier at top speed. Cruz had planned to drive alongside him to track his speed, but she couldn't keep up with him. Her wheels just spun on the soft sand. Lightning tried to show Cruz what to do, but she kept getting stuck. Then, at last, she tracked him all the way to the pier. but Lightning's top speed was still slower than Storm's. Lightning needed to race against real racers. When he spotted a sign for the Thunder Hollow Speedway, he had an idea. He would race at the track down there in the skies. He didn't want the cameras following his every move. Soon, Mac's trailer was transformed into a party supplies truck, and Lightning was covered from bumper to bumper in mud. Lightning's famous number 95 was now a muddy number 15. Cruz was also disguised as a racer with a 20 sprayed on her side. Together, they rolled up to the speedway just as the race was starting. Lightning and Cruz met some of the other racers on the track, including a terrifying school bus called Miss Fritter. Lightning joined the race as Chester Whipplefilter. Meanwhile, Cruz introduced herself as Frances Beltline. She had planned to track Lightning's speed from the middle of the stadium, but she was forced to join the race. "Welcome to Thunder Hollow for tonight's Crazy 8!" the announcer boomed. Lightning and Cruz looked at each other scared as stacks of tires exploded and cars began to smash into each other all around them. This wasn't a normal race. It was a demolition derby, and there was no escape. "Make way for the undefeated champion, Miss Fritter!" the announcer roared as the fierce school bus thundered onto the track and charged towards Cruz. Cruz couldn't move. She was frozen with fear. But Lightning spotted the danger and pushed Cruz to safety. The action continued until Cruz swerved past a huge water tanker, causing it to tip over. Lightning was sprayed with water and his muddy disguise washed away. "It's Lightning McQueen!" gasped a fan in the crowd. After the race, Lightning was not impressed. None of Cruz's training had helped improve his speed. "This is my last chance, Cruz," he said angrily. "If you were a racer, you know what I'm talking about, but you're not." "I wanted to become a racer forever," said Cruz, "but the other racers were bigger and stronger. I didn't belong." She wished him good luck before speeding away back to the Rusty's Racing Center. Later, inside Mac's trailer, Lightning couldn't sleep. He missed home, so he decided to call his friend Mater. "Tell me what the problem is and we'll fix it," Mater smiled. Lightning sighed. He wished Doc Hudson was still around. Doc could always fix his problems. "There was nobody smarter than old Doc," Mater agreed, "except for maybe whoever taught him." That was it. Lightning had to find Doc's old crew chief, Smokey. The next morning, Mac and Lightning headed for Thomasville, Doc Hudson's hometown racetrack. But first, they had to find Cruz. Lightning felt terrible for shouting at his friend. Mac soon spotted her out on the open road. "Come with us," Lightning said to Cruz. "I'm sorry I yelled." Cruz came on board and Lightning told her about his plan to find Smokey. The old Thomasville track was no longer in operation, but it was still perfect for racing. Lightning and Cruz whipped around the track. But as they skidded around the bend, the cars had to brake hard. A figure stood before them on the track. It was Smokey. Smokey introduced Lightning and Cruz to his friends, 3 racing legends who had competed with Doc. Then he told a story about a famous race where Doc had flipped over another racer to take the victory. Lightning and Cruz were amazed. To beat Storm, Lightning was going to need a racing partner, so Guido and the legends fitted a spoiler and racing tires to Cruz and transformed her into Jackson Storm 2.0. She was ready to go, but this time as a racer, not a trainer. Smokey gave Cruz a head start. Lightning sped after her, but he couldn't catch up. There was work to do if Lightning was going to beat the real Storm. Smokey trained Lightning and Cruz hard. They pulled heavy trailers, dodged bales of hay, and even steered through a stampede of tractors. Lightning was feeling better than ever. In their last practice before the big race, Lightning went out fast, but Cruz caught up and left him for dust. Lightning was stunned. Even after all his hard work, he still wasn't fast enough. But it was too late for another race. It was time to head to Florida. The day of the Florida 500 race arrived. Cruz and all of Lightning's friends had come to watch. Lightning rolled to the back of the grid. To everyone's surprise, Lightning made a speedy start. "Show 'em how the old guys race," shouted Smokey, who was acting as Lightning's crew chief. Lightning pushed hard and began overtaking the racers in front. In the pits, Sterling ordered Cruz to take off her racing tires and head back to the training center. "You're a trainer, Cruz, not a racer," he said. Lightning heard Sterling's harsh words over his headset. As he raced, all he could think about was Cruz, her speed on the simulator, all their races and training, and how Cruz had beaten him every time. Suddenly, two cars crashed up ahead. Lightning swerved and headed immediately into the pits. "I need Cruz back here," he told Smokey. Cruz was a racer, no matter what anyone said. A puzzled Cruz rolled into the pit lane. Lightning told his team to work on Cruz instead of him. Guido, Luigi, and Ramon worked fast, and soon Cruz was ready. Her spoilers shined, and the number 95 glistened on her side. She looked like a racer from bumper to bumper. "Today's the day, Cruz. You're getting your shot," Lightning told her. "I started this race, and you're going to finish it." As the race resumed, everyone was amazed to see a different number 95 on the track. The green flag dropped, and they were off. Cruz started slowly, but Lightning knew what to do. Lightning asked Smokey to tell Cruz to remember their Thomasville training and imagine the other cars as tractors. Cruz looked for spaces to steer around the other racers. The plan worked, and Cruz began overtaking the cars one by one. On the final lap, Cruz drew up alongside Storm. She tried to pass them, but Storm spotted the move and rammed her against the wall. "You don't belong on this track!" he yelled. "Yes, I do!" she shouted back. Remembering Doc's move, Cruz flipped up and over Storm. She touched down again on the track in front of Storm and then crossed the finish line in first place. The crowd went wild, and Lightning couldn't have been more proud. Then it was announced that Cruz and Lightning were joint winners because Lightning had started the race. Lightning hadn't lost, so he didn't have to retire. He knew his racing days weren't over, but for now, Lightning was devoted to getting Cruz ready for her next big race. It didn't matter who was the racer and who was the trainer. Lightning and Cruz were both true champions. Thank you for listening to my story of Cars 3, everyone. Tune in next time when I read to you the second story in this collection, Finding Dory. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. See you at the finish line, everyone!